Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the deliberative session of the Hampstead Middle School, 28 School Street, Hampstead, New Hampshire.
A little bit.
Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. Time is 7:04 p.m. This session shall consist of explanation, discussion, and debate of warrant articles numbered 2 through 7. Warrant articles may be amended subject to the following limitations. Warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. Warrant articles that are amended shall be placed on the official ballot for a final vote on the main motion as amended, and no warrant article shall be amended to eliminate the subject matter of the article. I call this meeting to order.
Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can access the meeting materials online. 3 ways to choose this. You can visit the school district warrant and budget site. You can visit the school district webpage under News. You can visit the school board website's board documents and open the public hearing, deliberative session, and election results materials 2025 folder. To get started, go to www.hampsteadschools.net. We have a meeting outline for tonight. Part 1, I will review the moderator's rules for this evening. Part 2, school board and elected officials introduction. And finally, Part 3, presentation of the warrant. First, the moderator's rules, which are published on the website. The moderator will not follow Robert's Rules of Order. The moderator will use the following general rules of procedure, whose main purpose is to keep the meeting moving. The moderator will take the articles in the order that they appear on the warrant. The moderator will consider each article as follows. The moderator will announce the article and the caption of the article. The text of the article will be displayed on the overhead screen or otherwise made available to the meeting. The moderator need not read the full text of the article. The moderator will recognize a member of the school board or the petitioner if it is a petitioned article to move the adoption of the article. The moderator will consider each article as follows. If the article is seconded, the moderator will recognize a member of the school board or the petitioner to explain the article. The meeting will then discuss, debate, and potentially amend the article. Everyone who speaks must use the microphone so they can be heard. No one may speak unless he or she has the floor. No one may have the floor unless recognized by the moderator. Each speaker must provide his or her name and address. The moderator will only allow one motion on the floor at a time. Amendments must be presented to the moderator in writing and signed by the proponent. Amendments will be accepted as long as the subject matter of the article is not changed or eradicated. Amendments require a majority vote. Moderator will only allow one amendment at a time. Articles prescribed by statute may not be amended. The moderator will not accept negative motions, which are motions that require a no vote to vote in the affirmative, such as, I move that we do not adopt the budget. And that's under Allen Bailey versus Town of Exeter, Rockingham County Superior Court, docket number 218-2011 CV-203. An opinion written by Judge McHugh. Motions to call the question, limit debate, and require a 2/3 vote. If passed, these motions stop debate on a motion or amendment. Non-voters may not speak at the meeting without the permission of the voters, except the moderator will allow non-resident school officials and consultants or experts who are at the meeting to provide information about the article. All speakers must be courteous and must speak to the issues, not to the individual raising the issue. The moderator will not allow personal attacks or inappropriate language. If any person behaves in a disorderly manner and after notice from the moderator persists in such behavior or shall in any way disturb the meeting or willfully violate any rule of proceeding, the moderator may have a police officer remove such a person from the meeting. That's RSA 8. All questions and comments shall be addressed to the moderator. The moderator will choose who responds to the questions. Each speaker may only speak once until everyone has spoken. With the exception of initial presentations on articles, which the moderator requests be limited to 10 minutes, all speakers in debate will be limited to 3 minutes. By majority vote, the voters may overrule any decision of the moderator. The moderator shall determine the method of voting, except as determined by law. However, any voter who doubts the accuracy of any non-counted vote may require the moderator to determine a counted show of hands or counted standing vote. Any 5 voters may require that the vote on any article or amendment by secret ballot. To do so, all 5 voters must be present and identified, and the request must be presented in writing to the moderator prior to the end of debate on the articles or amendment. Motion to reconsider an article may only be made immediately after the vote on the article or amendment, and may only be made by a voter who voted on the prevailing side of the vote to be reconsidered. Moderator requests respectfully that all voters be thoughtful, respectful of others, and wise. The meeting will recess to the secret ballot upon motion, first and seconded by a voter with a majority vote. Introducing the school board, Andy Caburis, Dr. Carl Hubner, Vice Chairman, Aaron Pellegrini, Melissa Denton, and Dr. Richard Poore. My name is Donald Blaska. I'm the school moderator, and with me is Lisa DeMeo, School District Clerk, as well as Superintendent of School Bob Thompson, CFO and HR Director Jeff Dowd, and School Counsel Attorney Abby Tucker. Presentation of the warrant. To the inhabitants of the school district of the town of Hampstead, New Hampshire, qualified to vote in district affairs. First session of annual meeting, which is tonight, the deliberative session. You are hereby notified to meet at the Hampstead Middle School, 28 School Street, Hampstead, New Hampshire, on Tuesday, the 4th day of February, 2025 at 7 p.m. This session shall consist of explanation, discussion, and debate of warrant articles numbered 2 through 7. Warrant articles may be amended subject to the following limitations. Warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. Warrant articles that are amended shall be placed on the official ballot for a final vote on the main motion as amended. And finally, no warrant article shall be amended to eliminate the subject matter of the article. An amendment that changes the dollar amount of an appropriation in a warrant article does not violate this provision. The second session of annual meeting, which is our voting day, voting on warrant articles number 1 through 7 will be conducted by official ballot to be held in conjunction with town meeting voting to be held on Tuesday, the 11th day of March 2025 at the Hampstead Middle School, 28 School Street, Hampstead, New Hampshire. The polls shall be open from 8 a.m. and remain open until 8 p.m. Article 1, election of officers. There's one slot available for a 3-year term. There's no discussion allowed pursuant to RSA 671:23. We will choose a school board member for a 3-year term. I will forward this article to the ballot with no amendments. Article 2, the operating budget. Shall the voters of the Hampstead School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth in the budget posted with the warrant for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $38,143,495. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $37,585,688, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Hampstead School District or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Note, warrant Article 2, the operating budget, does not include appropriations proposed under any other warrant articles. A majority vote is required on voting day, and and this is recommended by the school board 5-0.
For the budget presentation overview, we will discuss the overall budget proposal, budget drivers, staffing and personnel, highlights of new and deleted items by department, revenue budget, budget trends, and the default budget. The projected enrollment used for budgeting at the central school, the current is 475 students, projected is 473 with a difference of -2. At the middle school, the current is 354 students, projected is 356 students with a difference of an addition of 2. And at Pinkerton, current is 354 students, projected is 357 with a difference of +3. The total district-wide enrollment for school year 2025-26 is 1,186 students. For the overall budget proposal, the number is $38,143,495. The current budget is $38,938,889. The proposed budget is $38,143,495 with a difference of a decrease of $795,394. And this represents a 2.04% reduction year over year. The 2024-2025 budget drivers, salaries is an increase of $373,518. Group insurance is $308,458. Social Security, $20,633. Teacher retirement is a decrease of $136,994. Professional services is a decrease of $81,075. Repair and maintenance, an increase of $233,258. Plumbing, heating, and electrical repair is an increase of $11,658. Building improvement is a decrease of $1,558,950. Transportation services, an increase of $413,047. Budget drivers continued. Tuition is an increase of $543,500. Math curriculum is an increase of $86,663. Supplies is an increase of $16,832. Books and info resources is an increase of $35,616. Software is an increase of $19,703. Equipment is a decrease of $106,068. Fund transfers, capital reserve is a decrease of $1 million, and the total major factors are an overall decrease of $820,201. For personnel, the cost of the elementary special education coordinator from grant funding, including FICA and retirement, is $121,824. The elementary Spanish teacher, there's a decrease of $118,988, and that was repurposed into 2 special education support staff, totaling $109,665, and that includes FICA and insurance, with an overall total of an increase of $112,501. For stipends, there's an increase of $500 for the elementary ski club coordinator, an increase of $1,000 for Destination Imagination district coordinator, an increase of $1,200 for the middle school overnight ecology trip stipend, an increase of $500 for the middle school athletic leadership council, an increase of $5,000 for the elementary student club stipends, totaling an increase of $8,200. For technology, there's a decrease of $82,490 for prior year cybersecurity infrastructure update, a decrease of $7,495 for staff admin laptop rotation. The cycle is complete. An increase of $28,196 for the 4-year kindergarten cycle replacement. An increase of $2,800 for the gumdrop protective CB cases for kindergarten. An increase of $7,573 for cybersecurity awareness training. An increase of $1,605 for the behavior plug-in for Power School, with an overall decrease of $49,811. For Hampstead Central School, there's an increase of $14,050 for professional development for MTSSB systems, including Train the Trainer. An increase of $13,682 for supplies. An increase in prices are due to inflation. An increase of $7,094 for classroom furniture replacement cycles for grade 2 desks and chairs. An increase of $3,340 for field trip transportation and additional transportation costs, for an overall increase of $38,166. At Hampstead Middle School, there's an increase of $15,000 for musical replacement equipment for replacing the staging. There's an increase of $3,009 for school supplies. Cost increases supplies and paper. An increase of $2,500 for workshops and professional development and the new principal mentor program. There's an increase of $1,375 for STEAM integration and family night consumables. A decrease of $3,365 for the library replacement equipment and the replacement furniture purchased in the current year. And then an increase of $7,772 for literature books, additional grade 7 and grade 8 for cross-curriculum opportunities, with an overall total of an increase of $26,291. For facilities, there's an increase of $213,840 for sites, the HMS oil tank removal and install. An increase of $32,616 for repair and maintenance for the HMS fire panel field parts. An increase of $16,936 for repair and maintenance for HMS PFAS tanks replacement. A decrease of $60,954 for the replacement vehicle for the truck, plow, etc. That was a current year purchase. And a decrease of $1,558,950 for the building improvement HCS infill classrooms, with a decrease of $1,365,512. For student services, there's a decrease of $114,686 for other professional services, utilization of internal staff. There's an increase of $611,775, tuition to private, increase in student needs requiring specialized programming and placement. And there's an increase of $269,268 for specialized transportation, an increase in student needs requiring specialized programming and placement, for an overall increase of $766,357. For the revenue budget for 2025-2026, the unassigned balance is $600,000. Tuition individuals is $160,000. Tuition inclusion is $30,000. Interest is $50,000. Food service sales is $319,055. Permanent funds is $100. Other local revenue is $2,000. For state revenue, $3,241,450 for educational grants. Other unrestricted state aid is nothing. Special education aid is $550,000. Child nutrition is $3,500, and other state aid is nothing for 2025-26. For federal revenue, federal projects is $650,000. Lunch reimbursements is $63,500. Medicaid is $5,000. For other revenue, the transfer from capital projects is nothing for 25-26, and the amount voted from fund balance is nothing for 2025-26, for the total income of $5,674,605. With the district assessment included, the total is $38,143,495. For the budget percentage trends, I won't read all of these, but everyone can see the year-over-year percentage increases. I'll highlight in 2023-2024 an 11.12% increase. For 2024-2025, a 12.35% increase, and the proposed 2025-2026 of $38,143,495 of a decrease of 2.04%, with the average being 4.06%. For fiscal years 2014 and 2015 through 24-25, this includes all voter-approved warrant articles, example being amounts towards the Capital Reserve Fund. The proposed budget for next year, for the 2025-2026 year, represents the operating budget alone. For funding sources, for current year 2024-25, our revenue is $4,320,188. The anticipated for 2025-26 is $1,833,155. For state adequate education aid, current year is $3,234,712. The anticipated is $3,241,450. For surplus, current year is $350,367. The anticipated for 2025-26 is $600,000. For local taxes, the current year is $31,033,622. The anticipated for 2025-26 is $32,468,890. The total operating budget for the 2025-2026 year is $38,143,495. The change results in a decrease of $795,394. The percent of change is a decrease of 2.04%. The tax impact percentage is 4.08%, and the tax impact per thousand assessed property value is 61 cents per thousand. For the budget distribution, salaries represent 33.40%. Benefits are 21.96%. Expenses, 5.33%. Tuition, 27.05%. Fund transfers, 2.72%. Transportation, 6.04%. Utilities and repair, 2.19%. Supplies and equipment, 1.31%. For the default budget, should the proposed budget be defeated, the default budget would be $37,585,688. The proposed budget is $38,143,495. Again, the default budget is $37,585,688, with the difference being $557,807.
Thank you. I'll now open it up. Anybody who would like to speak?
Let's see, my voice carries this time. Okay, Mr. Moderator, I rise in opposition to Article 2 because Hampton's taxpayers cannot continue
favor,
to
please.
accept the voracious
Excuse me.
appetite.
You have to introduce yourself and say your address.
I am sorry. I am Jorge Mesa Tejada, at 54 Tewksbury Road. I've lived in Hampstead since 1966. Okay, I'll begin again. I rise in opposition to Article 2 because Hampstead taxpayers cannot continue to accept the voracious appetite of the Hampstead School District. Yes, this year is low, but that's not the history. And yes, I know that RSA 189:1-A mandates the school board to provide money to operate the schools, and that it is the board's budget once adopted after the public hearing in January. But in reality, guys, it's the superintendent's budget. I know, I built A budgets 1970 to 74, 1990 to 94. Those were the years when Hampstead really was bursting at the seams. However, in the current situation, the problem is that taxpayers cannot keep up with the growth of the budget. In the last tax bill, the school portion of the December bill was only $13.78. Well, that was a good sleight of hand because what they did, they raised the appropriation by 51%. Had they remained the same, the portion of the tax bill would have been $20.97. Big difference. Anyway, the people notice. Now, let's look at the appropriation history. There was an interesting slide 24, in the school board presentation on the January 14th public hearing. It was a listing of the actual school budgets from 2014 to the current year. It was very, very telling. From 2014 to 2020, the year of our separation, the average increase in the school budget was only about 3%. Since we became an SAU, our own SAU and our independent district, the budgets have grown by 5%, 10%, 11%, 12%, except this year is going down. But when you look at it in totality, the budget grew from 2020-21 from 29,283,960 to 38,143,495 this year. That's a 30% increase in 5 years here, but what we have been our own district. Compare that to the previous years, 2014 to 2020, where it went from 24,115,711 to 27,801,104. The years we separate from Timberlane, that's only 15.26%. So I tried to figure out what the problem was. And I said, we must be swamped with new students, correct? Well, I looked at them. According to NSDEC, the statistical firm that has been tracking us since 1953, in 2014-2015, Central School K-4 was only 434. In 2020, when we separated, was 414. Today is 439. Middle school in 2014-2015 was 454. When we separated in 2020, it was 359, and today we're 356. The enrollment does not support the growth of the budget. So why is the budget so high? Mr. Moderator, I let the taxpayers answer that, and I have a motion to amend.
Certainly.
I move to reduce Article 2, the proposed 2025-26 school district budget of $38,143,495 by $1,498,627, so that the new amount is $36,644,868. The $1,498,627 reduction is equal to $1 million reduction directly from Article 2, the figure in Article 2, $99,001, which is the additional cost of Article 3, and $339,626, which is the additional cost of Article 3 for the first year. And I further move that the voting be by secret ballot.
Just to make sure that, I want to make sure that the people that obviously signed it pursuant to the rules are here.
Yep.
When I call your name, please raise your hand. Obviously, Mr. Mayhew.
Yep.
Mesa Tejada. Carolyn Bergtrust. Thank you, ma'am. Roy Bergcrust. Thank you, sir. Dennis Green. Good to see you, Mr. Green. And David Forbes. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So if I may, if you allow me a final word, the reason why I'm doing this is because that reduction allows the increases due to the collective agreements to be incorporated into the budget without any growth in the budget proper. That's why I did this. So basically, I'm trying to keep the budget amount lower because of all the history of the budgets before that. Okay?
Thank you, sir. Does anyone like to speak upon the motion to amend?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Jason Cipriano. I live at 115 Laura Lane. I've lived in Hampstead for the past 45 years, and I'm a previous school board chair. I rise in support of the budget as submitted and in opposition of the amendment that has been submitted. Mr. Moderator, I'm concerned about the impact of this amendment and the change to our budget and the impact it would have on the quality of education in Hampstead. And moreover, I'm concerned about the misunderstandings, misinformation, and misgivings of those who have an interest in the budget. Specifically, Mr. Moderator, I am concerned that, as you probably know, the state's adequate education aid that they provide to Hampstead and other towns across the state has been declared unconstitutional multiple times, most recently in the Conval decision, but previously in the decisions in the 1990s, the 93 and 97 decisions, as well, the Claremont 1 and Claremont 2 decisions, in which the Supreme Court has consistently held that the state's funding of education in Hampstead and in other towns is unconstitutionally low. And specifically, just to put a number to it, in the most recent decision, the Kentucky decision, the court held the state was underfunding the aid to Hampstead and towns like Hampstead by 80%. 80% underfunding their aid to us. So there's questions about why our taxes keep going up. Are we not managing things properly? I would submit, Mr. Moderator, the issue is really with the state. I'll give you another example. The state has, for decades now, engaged in a practice called downshifting. They've shifted costs onto local taxpayers and away from the state budget. In 1971, the first year of the New Hampshire retirement system allocation data, the state paid 96.9% of the cost of retirement for our teachers. By 2023, Mr. Moderator, that share had been reduced to 78.98%, the difference being passed on to local property tax owners. In this proposed budget that would be impacted by this, the town should be paying $38,576 into the system, but instead is paying $239,298, a 620% increase due to the downshifting by Concord to local taxpayers. Finally, regarding the state versus local schools, as you know, Mr. Moderator, New Hampshire is at the bottom of the nation in terms of state funding of public education. We stand 50th out of 50 states. Our state contributes only about 20% of the cost of education, with the balance coming predominantly from local taxpayers. For comparison, our neighbor Vermont pays 90% through the state for their education, with local taxes contributing 10%. Even if you include the recently declared unconstitutional SWEPT, that number, New Hampshire moves only to 48 out of 50. So there's frustration with rising property taxes. I would recommend we share those with our representatives and our governor. Ask why the state, according to the Supreme Court, keeps underfunding public education. Ask why the retirement system keeps getting downshifted to local towns. Ask why the state only approved most recently in their moratorium consideration $50 million out of an estimated backlog as high as $650 million for school building aid. Why does the state keep downshifting costs to the local property taxpayers? Mr. Moderator, I believe this cut would be detrimental to our school, and moreover, I don't believe that it represents poor budgeting and poor management on the part of our administration or our district. It simply is a consequence of a state continuing to downshift costs to local property tax owners. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak with regard to the amendment? At this time, we will then proceed. You have something else to say? She gets to go first.
Thank you. Elaine Christie, 52 Village Green Road, D4. I'm non-registered at this time, so I ask for permission to speak.
Go up to the
Sorry.
microphone, yes. Speak right into the microphone. Stand right.
Elaine Christie, 52 Village Green Drive. New resident. I'm unregistered at the moment, so I ask voters for permission to speak. This is an emotional topic for me, so I may cry. I recently moved to Hampstead. I am fully in support of the amendment presented by the board, full support, and I am against this gentleman's amendment. Hampstead has increased my children receiving an education. I really need to share with my community what a wonderful job they're doing. I think what the prior gentleman spoke, it's very true. What you say about we're not receiving our funding, we're not. I'm actually a parent volunteer at the Parent Information Center out of Concord, New Hampshire. I do rally to get increase of being able to have our federal education funding go to our children, because it's not. It's very true. Hampstead needs to be very, very proud of the people you're sending out into the world. And they are wonderful students, they are wonderful people because of the education they are receiving here. Children I meet in the community are exemplary. And I really do hope that our senior citizens in the community are able to see what us parents see, what the administration and the staff see. It is so true. I work with a lot of families from other school districts throughout the state of New Hampshire, and other districts are not up to par as Hampstead. They are not. My son is neurodiverse, and since coming to Hampstead, the beginning of the school year, my son smiles when he comes home. He is not trying to leave school. He is happy to be there. The supports he's receiving, the education he is now able to receive, there are no words to express. As a mother, how wonderful that is. As a special education advocate, Hampstead is on a pedestal. Compassion comes first. Our town, compassion comes first. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not a big public speaker. I'm proud of the children that I have, and I'm proud of the people they're becoming. So I really do hope our whole community is proud of the people they're sending out into the world. Hampstead needs to be a star on the map, not only in the state of New Hampshire, but the United States. The individuals that are educating and helping my children deserve every award and recognition available. And I do hope that our community is able to come into our schools more or interact with these students more to understand how it is. And it is unfortunate, the increase and how it does affect our taxpayers. I've been actually a seasonal taxpayer here in Hampstead for many years. Now I am an official resident. And I'm proud of that. I'm very, very proud of that. So I do want to share that with my community, the voters, and
Ma'am?
to know that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we've reached over 3 minutes at
Thank
this
you.
point in time. Thank you very much for your comments.
How proud we need to be. Thank you.
Is anybody else would like to speak on the amendment? Please state your name and your address.
My name is Bob Weimer. I live at 311 Emerson Avenue. I happen to be the current chair of the Budget Committee, and I'm here on behalf of the Budget Committee Speaking to a report that we prepared this year that's available to the public through the town's website. The most important point, I think, in the budget is that much of the change or increase is not within the school board's control. The principal issue, and the one that I think the state ultimately needs to help us address, is the federal mandates for special education. And if we look just at the last 4 years, budget increased a total of 27% from 22-23 budget to the proposed budget. Special education accounts for approximately 26 to 28% of the budget annually, and this past year has gone up approximately, or over the 3 years has gone up 35%. The transportation related to special services has gone up 173%. So the net of those items is a significant amount of money. If you look at the totals, it's over $3 million of the increase over the last 3 years has been directly related to special education, over which the school board has no control. Now, I'm not in favor of increasing budgets unnecessarily, but it's a fact that we have no control over this particular line item, and it is the bulk of the budget increase. If you take the budget increase related to special education out, you will see that it's not minus 2% based on your calculations, but it's actually much less than that if we didn't have these increases. So I would ask the public to understand that our percentage of students who require special ed, the amount of money we're spending as a percent of budget, are on par with what the state sees across the state. So we're not being unusually high. It's a mere fact that statewide, this particular, if you want to call it, line item of our budget ends up being uncontrollable because of a federal mandate. So I would urge the voters to understand that the costs related to special education cannot be reduced because it's a mandated requirement. Therefore, the bulk of the budget cannot be reduced. Thank you.
You just need to check it at the desk, please. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in further of the discussion with regard to the amendment? Yes. Everyone has had a chance to speak.
First, to the lady who just spoke, your child will be taken care of no matter what. That's not what we were talking about. What I want to do is address what Mr. Cipriano said. He maintains that the state will take care of us. Guess what? That is not the case. The only money we get is from the adequate education grant with a base amount of $4,100 and a maximum amount of $4,750, depending upon disabilities that come thereafter that are cumulative. And guess what? Our overall cost is running about $24,000 per student. However, that adequate education money that I just mentioned, $4,100 to a maximum of $9,000 plus, is being used by charter schools to provide the same education and meeting the same requirements and providing the same special education that we are providing here. All I'm saying is that we have to control our costs, lower the amount of administrators we have. I can give you all kinds of reasons, but I cannot talk about that. We're talking about the bottom line of the budget. And that's why I suggested that we lower the budget by essentially $2 million, and the amount that we're going to add pertaining to the collective agreement for the union, for the teachers union, and the aides, and remove that from the budget. So our budget basically there is no change because we as taxpayers, we are denying the good things you guys do. The fact remains that we have to pay our bills. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Would anyone else like to speak with regard to the proposed amendment?
For the audience, I'd just like to point out one factor. The special education requirements, even at charter schools, are the responsibility of the town. Charter schools do not fund special education. The town does. So the fact that their costs are less is great, but it doesn't reflect the problems that we as a community have and the responsibility that's been placed on us by the federal government.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak with regard to the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Speaking specifically to federally required and state required costs, which, as we've discussed, make up a significant portion of the budget, it's less a question of the school would cease to provide services which they are required by law to provide. That's unlikely to happen. That wouldn't happen. As a person who was on the school board who constructed these budgets and helped manage the schools, what happens in reality when you do this is that money has to come from somewhere. So you have to continue providing adequate educational services for students, including special needs students. And when that happens, you have to pull that money from other places. So what does that really look like? In my experience, it looks like things like you defer maintenance. You push that boiler replacement out another year, another 2 years, until that small repair, that $5,000, $10,000 repair, becomes a $100,000 repair when the boiler itself fails completely, or the leach field, the septic system, and so on and so forth. And a lot of us know this from our own houses, right? You can defer things only for so long. That is what we have done on the board. When I was on the board, that's what I've seen this board do for many, many years. That's when you ask why we have some crumbling infrastructure, it's because we've deferred those things in order to fulfill legally mandated requirements, because that's what this board will do, and that's what the administrators will do. And so the net effect of reducing this isn't that we're putting in jeopardy the most vulnerable students. I have confidence the administration won't let those students slip through the cracks. It's what are we going to have to do in order to fund that? Where are the cuts going to have to come? And they'll come to those other services which you can only defer for so long until they really cause major issues for the school and for the taxpayers. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak with regard to the motion to amend?
Caitlin Parnell, 240 Wash Pond Road. This is kind of a follow-up to Mr. Cipriano's comment. Can the board or the administration speak to what a cut of this magnitude would mean? Because we are talking about a big number, and we're talking in hypotheticals. We have numbers in front of us. Where would this need to come from? Thank you.
I can, Mr. Moderator. I'd be happy to answer Mrs. Parnell's question. So obviously, with a reduction of 1.4 million, that will involve a lot of recalculation of the budget. But for quick math, I would say that would be probably 10 positions, professional and support staff positions that would be impacted by a $1.4 million reduction.
Anybody else would like to speak with regard to the motion to amend Article 2? At this time, we will pause. Okay. We're going to start with the handing out of the ballots, which...
So point of...
Sorry, could not hear you.
Point of order, you need a second on that amendment.
Okay, I thought that was already done, sorry.
Yeah.
Is there a second on the motion to amend?
That's just a second, that's just for the secret ballot.
That's for the secret ballot.
That's not to amend. That's not.
Mr. Green, you're seconding it? At this point in time, we will then pass out.
There's another point of order. Under your moderator rules, it says there needs to be 5 people who
There is.
requested. There are? Okay.
They handed a signature, that's why I called them out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Unless there's any other further discussion, we'll then proceed towards a secret ballot. We will hand out ballots, and we will then check everybody back in over at the table. All residents can vote on this.
You have to be registered in the state town of need to show your ID.
I'm going to go through that now. Before we actually start voting, I want to make sure everyone understands what a vote of yes means. If you are voting yes to this amendment, you're agreeing to reduce the operating budget as outlined in Article 2 by $1,498,627. I can't do that. You have to, so when you say you're going to reduce the budget and it's by an amount, and I know you're going to say it by a certain location or by a certain spot, that's not allowed. It's what the number is. That's all it is the number. So if you vote yes, you're voting to reduce the budget as outlined in Article 2 by $1,498,627. We are resuming the meeting. The results of the vote to amend Article 2, yes, 17, 45, no. The motion to amend is defeated. Any further discussion on Article 2?
Items that I just, Kim Organic, 4 Marshall Road. Is that better? All right. There were 4 line items I just wanted some clarification on, just because I wasn't understanding some of what I had read. The first one was on travel and workshops. So the current year, the budget was $76,000 for travel and workshops. The ask for next year is $163,290. Now, according to our CBAs, we have to have $19,500 in that line item. So my question is, why are we increasing it by 113%?
Would someone like to answer that?
Thank you. Very, very fair question. That's a good question, actually. We have it might seem like an odd place to put it, we have a curriculum initiative coming in next year, and about $80,000, and there is nowhere really to put it in the budget that would be incredibly appropriate, based on the fact that we don't, for example, necessarily use workbooks as much as we used to. We don't necessarily use online resources. So until we're able to identify which program we're going to be using and what program we'll be going with on that, we've put that in that line as a placeholder.
So it sounds like it's more of instructional materials versus workshops and travel.
And, it's interesting you raised that point. I could probably ask any of the educators here who are working on that team. You say instructional material, really it's a curriculum program. And if we're instructional materials like workbooks and things like that, textbooks, I could just put it in that line. But the way that we're looking at curriculum now, it may not just be workbooks, it may not be just textbooks, it may not be online resources, it may be a bunch of those. And so that's where that money would be going.
What is the math program that you're putting in next year in $86,000?
Yeah, so this is for a new math program. We're currently piloting 2 programs, so a decision on which program has not yet been made.
And is that for K to 8, or is it a K elementary, or?
It will be a K to 8 program, yeah.
K to 8.
I appreciate your finding that, though.
So I think you might want to look at renaming that line item, because travel and workshops means you're going to Orlando for a week to learn about math.
Yeah,
so it doesn't leave a good taste in anyone's mouth, so you might want to change that. I did have a question. I saw the HMS late bus on there. This year it was $4,500. Next year it's doubled to $10,680. I didn't see anything for the Pinkerton late bus, so I wasn't sure if that was inclusive of both. And I didn't know what the ridership is, because I know historically I rode that bus. Of course, it was a long time ago, but I was one of maybe 3 kids, and I know kids that have currently ridden it, and sometimes they're the only one on the bus. So My question is, what's the ridership, and is that inclusive of Pinkerton's late bus as well?
Yeah, so the overall increase is due to there previously had been grant funding under ESSER, which was the COVID funds. So now that that grant has sunsetted, we have to budget for it. We do look at ridership numbers. We actually looked at them this week. There's up to 12 students that will ride the bus. It really depends on what activity is going on. So right now the musical's going on, so ridership would be higher. The Pinkerton bus, we have run a late bus in the past. We are not currently running a late bus because we looked at the data, and the data was 0 to 1 students that would actually ride the bus. And so it is currently not running.
Okay, and I think, too, I would just look back at the HMS, who can ride it. My daughter's in every after-school activity running, and she's never able to take the late bus. And I usually sit outside for 20 minutes or more waiting in a very long line with other parents who are picking up their students. So I'm not really sure that there's a lot of people riding on those buses from HMS. My other question is, I think it's a performance incentive that I've seen in the budget, which gives increases up to, like the superintendent's increase would be a $10,000 raise of 6%. And it looks like it is a cost of living adjustment as well as a performance incentive that includes the SAU staff and the HMS principal, not central school though, which I'm not sure why. So I was wondering if someone could explain what this performance incentive includes. What is the decision we use to base on whether they receive the performance incentive, and why central school principal is not included in that? In addition to the fact that our teachers, their contract, they're looking for 3% increase, and they're the ones in the classroom. And we're looking at giving performance incentives to the administrators that is double what their increase would be. So I'd like some clarification on that.
Mr. Dowd or Mr. Thompson?
I'll address the superintendent. So in the contract, he can get up to a 4% raise, and then he got 3%, and then he can get up to a 4% bonus, and he got a 3% bonus. Right now, this year, he was the 39th out of 82 superintendents. He made $151,160, and that doesn't include health insurance because he doesn't take health insurance, where most of the superintendents do. So that would probably put him down in the 60s. So he is relatively low compensated in comparison to other superintendents. And he took that on the idea that over time he would be able to make that up with performance bonuses.
So my question would be then, out of 80 superintendents, they're not all K-8 superintendents. So it's not really comparable. He can't be compared to Manchester, for example. So I guess the question is, what were the comparable districts that you used to prove? Because I know Barrington, it's not Hampstead, but it's a K-8 district. They send their kids off to a high school somewhere else like we do, and that superintendent's making $137,000.
If he was getting health insurance, he'd be making his compensation would have been around $24,000 less, which would have put him around that. And you can't really compare K-8 versus K-12 because it's the same pool right now, and the pool is very small. So if you get somebody, you really need to kind of hold on to them and compensate them when they've been doing a good job.
So the question is, how do we determine if they receive their performance incentive?
They're evaluated annually, and we all assess the superintendent annually and then agree as a board to move forward with, in this case, it was a 3% increase to the salary and a 3% increase to the merit bonus.
And sorry, ma'am, you've reached over 3 minutes at this point in
okay.
time. Thank you very much for your comments.
All right.
Any further discussion with regard to Article 2?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to restrict reconsideration.
Is there a second? All those in favor? At this time, there's no more speakers. I'll move the article to the official ballot. Article 3, the collective bargaining agreement, Hampstead Support Personnel Association. Shall the Hampstead School District vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Hampstead School Board and the Hampstead Support Personnel Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels over the amount paid in the prior fiscal year. Cost distribution 2025 to 2026, $99,001. 2026 to 2027, $64,601. 2027 to 2028, $32,926. 2028 to 2029, $32,926. And further to raise and appropriate the sum of $99,001 for the 2025-2026 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributed to the increase in salaries and fringe benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. Majority vote required. Recommended by the school board, 5-0. Article 3, the collective bargaining association agreement, wage information. You can see the different steps between years 1 through 4, as well as the stipend information with regard to maintenance, AM lead custodian, PM lead custodian, SEU office custodian, and a groundskeeper. Anyone would like to be recognized at this point in time to speak? There's no deliberation since this article is not able to be modified. If there's no one wants to speak at this time on Article 3, I'll now move it to the official ballot. Article 4, the collective bargaining agreement, Hampstead Education Association. Shall the Hampstead School District vote to approve the cost items included in collective bargaining agreement reached between the Hampstead School Board and the Hampstead Education Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels over the amount paid in the prior fiscal year. 2025 to 2026, $399,626. 2026 to 2027, $399,526. 2027 to 2028, $399,113, and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $399,626 for the 2025 to 2026 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and fringe benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board, 5-0. And you can see on the second page the wage information, years 1, 2, and 3, with on-step to off-step. Does anyone want to speak on Article 4?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I rise in support of both collective bargaining agreements and encourage fellow residents of Hampstead to support the collective bargaining agreements. I think that the school board and our respective unions do a good job hammering out agreements that are moderated by the times and afford for increases. However, I am concerned that over time, Hampstead has drifted further and further away from the mean, and that over time it's going to have an impact on our ability to recruit and retain high-performing educators. For perspective, Mr. Moderator, the teachers in Hampstead have an approximate average salary of about $48,000 versus a state average of $60,000 or a more conservative average of $57,000, which the Rockingham County Superior Court used in the recent Rand decision. That means that our educators are paid about 25% less than the state average. And as I said, I am concerned that over time we've drifted further and further away. And if there's any pervasive thought out there in the community that our educators are paid somewhere near even the average, not even at the top of the scale, let's dispel that right here and right now and say that we're underpaying them by about 25% compared to the rest of the state. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Cipriano talks about the schedules, and he's absolutely correct. However, what we have to remember is that we are here to pay what Hampstead can pay. We're not in competition with anyone. We don't have to meet anyone's goals. So that's why the increments, and I've negotiated teachers' contracts, are very generous, but that's not all they get. They get a lot more. So all I want to say is Hampstead teachers are being compensated correctly for the stage for the state of where we are. You know, Hampstead has limits. We are not overly wealthy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bob Weimar, 311 Emerson Avenue. As chair of the Budget Committee, I'm here to speak to the issue of teacher salary. Specifically, the numbers that I have as a result of the studies that I did said that the average teacher salary in Hampstead is $62,872, and they range from 43 to 89. I'm not sure where the other statistics came from, but this was taken right from a public source regarding New Hampshire's, Hampstead, New Hampshire's teacher pool, if you will. If you compare ours to the generic salaries throughout the state, our averages are generally on par. The range goes from 40 to 85, and the average, dependent upon the town, the average is somewhere between 49,000 and 73,000. So from my point of view, the salaries, and if you look at the CBA agreement, the actual salaries, and you compare them against other CBAs, Auburn, for example, we're right on par with those.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak on this article? If there's no further speakers, I'll move the article to the official ballot. Article 5, authorization for special meeting on cost items. Shall the Hampstead School District, if Article 3 or Article 4 is defeated, authorize the Hampstead School Board to call a special meeting at its option to address the Article 3 and or Article 4 cost item only. Majority vote required. Without this article, the district would have to petition the Superior Court for a special school district meeting. This saves the district the expense of attorney fees and court costs. This is recommended by the school board. Anyone like to speak on this particular article? There is no deliberation or discussion on this since the article is not able to be amended. If there's no one to be speaking on this, I'll now move the article to the official ballot. Article 6, Capital Reserve Fund. Shall the voters of the Hampstead School District raise and appropriate up to $150,000 to be placed in the school renovation, reconstruction, and capital improvement capital reserve fund established in 2006, with such amount to be transferred from the June 30th, 2025 unassigned fund balance surplus in excess of $150,000 available for transfer on July 1st, 2025. Majority vote required. The first $150,000 of surplus will be returned to the taxpayers. The next $150,000 of the surplus will be placed in the Capital Reserve Fund. Any additional surplus will be returned to the taxpayers. The funds from this article come from the 2024-2025 school budget surplus, not from additional taxes. This is recommended by the school board, 5-0. Would anyone like to speak on Article 6? With there's no speakers, I'll now move the article to the official ballot. Article 7, accept reports. Shall the Hampstead School District accept reports of agents, auditors, and committees as written in the 2024 annual report? Majority vote required, recommended by the school board. If there's no speakers, I'll move this article to the ballot. Deliberative Session 2, voting day is Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. Hampstead Middle School, 28 School Street, Hampstead, New Hampshire. Polls will be open from 8 a.m. and remain open till 8 p.m. Is there a motion to recess?
I will make a motion to recess until March 11th, 2025.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. The meeting is now over. Thank you very much, everyone.